All right, morning everyone. Let's get going here. All right. Interesting session last night in U.S. markets. Actually finally had some sort of a move. It moved almost 1% on the market from high to low. We did drift back up toward kind of the median level of that range to close the session on both the NASDAQ and the S&P, both finishing down about 0.5%. Now we continue to look at one thing I think that's starting to make markets a little bit nervous in my mind, and that's U.S. Treasuries. We talked about it yesterday, continuing to drift higher on the yields, and we see that impacting several things. We see that obviously giving us continued strength in the U.S. dollar. We see emerging market currencies really getting battered down on that. The rand yesterday traded within a cent or two of previous lows or previous closing lows against the dollar. We see it in some of the commodity stocks. So that's where we're seeing a little bit of pressure there. I think that's going to continue so long as we see Treasury yields that are able to push a little bit higher. We had very light volume yesterday in the States, so I think that's important to note. We came back and closed below the 5,000 level on NASDAQ, which I don't think is a real issue because it wasn't a convincing sell-off. But I think that's we're going to have to see us get above 5,000, the whole 5,000, for the markets to really start to carry on. All right, next thing we'll look at this morning is the Asian markets. Not a big sell-off, but a sell-off pretty much across the board. Everything except for Shanghai, which was flat. We saw the Nikkei give up about 0.5%. Australia give up about 0.5%. All the mining stocks trading lower there in Australia. Not a whole lot of leadership anywhere else, so not going to spend a whole lot of time on Asia. This morning we had MTN numbers, I think, which were the big numbers that we've been waiting for a long time. Before the expectation, or before the recent trading statement, expectations were about 14.74. Headline earnings per share came in maybe touch under recent guidance was. Revenue numbers look a hair soft, but the divvy looks significantly better. I think there are a lot of worries around that. The only negatives, from what I understand, that are really out there is maybe related to some of the Nigerian numbers. Might be able to keep a little bit of pressure on it, but I think overall the market's probably going to look at this with a little bit of relief, especially the guys that have been real worried about the dividends. I mean, you saw what happened to Sasol when they started to change their dividend policy and how the market totally destroyed them on the back of that. So I think that's really important to see how that goes on. We're also going to look for, we had RMI out this morning. Headline earnings per share came in. Looks like, what's that? MMI, sorry. Looking 2 cents light there. Don't have the comparable revenue numbers, but divvy looks in line as well. So anyway, it's something to watch this morning. MTN definitely going to be in play today, you got to think. All right, looking at market data today, we had Australian GDP numbers, which came out dead in line. We have services PMI out of Japan, which looks a little bit soft. We've got PMI numbers here locally at 915. And then we've got a ton of service PMI numbers across the entire Eurozone. We've got PMI in the States. We've got crude oil inventories in the States, non-manufacturing composite numbers, and ADP employment change. So, a decent amount of data out today. All right, let's get into some of the maps. First thing that we're going to look at this morning here is Billiton, which is really pushing up against some sort of trend support here. So we had this huge, this is freaking steep too. That's impressive. We managed to hold it on a closing basis. This morning, you got to expect this thing to be opening up soft on the back of obviously the way that they traded in Australia. We did actually trade really well toward the end of the session here, I got to say, in the mining space. But Australia overnight looked terrible to say the least. So we've had a big push up here. I think if we drop out of support here, I think we're going to need to see us close below, maybe call it 286 just for confirmation. When we get below 286 and the close will be out of this uptrend, this will probably start to look a little bit more like a bear flag, and I think we could really accelerate to the downside from there. All right, next one we're going to have a look at is Barlow's. We've looked at this chart several times, so I'm going to go way back here and look at the long-term trend line. Okay, we've got this trend, a long-term trend line there that we keep looking at. We came back up again, tested it, failed out of that, and really kind of falling out of this this little retest of that trend resistance level. Yesterday we spiked up really hard into it to close the day, but we're still below that level. Might be a decent little opportunity to fade. Everything attached to this sector, or to Caterpillar and people in that sector have really been hammered. It's really been the suppliers that actually gotten hurt worse than even the miners. So I think watch this around 90. If we fail again at 90, it might be a nice little place to hop on a bit of a short. Okay, let's look at Discovery, which finally broke through the 120 level yesterday after fighting for about, maybe 12 days. 10 or 12 days out of the last 15. We finally got a close above 120. I'm looking for a move, probably only about $6 to the upside here on a breakout of the same sort of height to that channel that we were in. So maybe a move around 126 in Discovery. The next one we'll look at is Kumba ARI. Pair here, which is really, I think, broken out of a kind of an important range here that we've been trading in for a while. You can see starting to move back to the upside. This is Kumba versus ARI. Obviously, ARI under intense pressure, and Kumba started to really turn down yesterday as well. So these guys have been consolidating, just moving sideways. I mean, they couldn't even give us a bump up in any of these things. ARI obviously underperforming the most. We're within, let's see here, a couple bucks, $3 of dropping to new lows. I think that these stocks are probably both going to trade to new lows, but ARI obviously looking heavier than either one. Either way, these stocks are starting to drop real support. ARI definitely looking like it's leading the way at the moment and breaking down a little bit harder. Might be the one to kind of hop on, but these things have just moved sideways for the last 2 months when the rest of the market and a lot of those sectors have bounced. It's a really bad time for these things. I think we're going to take out lows. I think we're going to trade to about $180 in Kumba. We look at MTN yesterday. We had a nice reversal candle there yesterday. Kind of got back down to that 205 level, you can see, and really reversed hard into the end of the session. We closed right on the highs, and then we obviously had a good earnings report this morning. I think that there's, if provided we get back above the 210 level here, which is really where the bottom end of that channel is on this little broadening formation, I think that we can accelerate and maybe move back up to around 220. I have a feeling there's some shorts out there in this stock as well. So if there is, we could see more upside in MTN than just a little move this morning. And then I actually just want to show a couple of these banking stocks. So there's quite a big level here. We were looking at in Standard Bank. Somewhere around here, which we managed to kind of hold on a closing basis, call it 150. We managed to hang in there. I think 148, there's some significant support as well, right around there, because we put in a lot of tops around 148. So somewhere in that range could be our little risk range. This is, to me, I think a lot of these banks having a nice big pullback. Nedbank as well pulling back into some sort of support here. And I mean, almost kind of looking like it's breaking down and dropping a little bit of maybe a head and shoulder formation here. So I think this is important to keep an eye on to see if this plays out further to the downside. One last one that I actually didn't put on my list is Centum. We were looking at this yesterday with some of the guys after being really heavy yesterday. We reversed back up and closed above the neckline of this head and shoulder, but we got a nice head and shoulder setup going on here in Centum with a target down around 205 Rand. I wouldn't be surprised to see us get a move down around there. And yeah, so if we close below 225, I think we could actually make that move in Centum down to 205. That's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot.